Okay guys, so once you've connected yourself or your account to Xero, what you need to do is you need to set up payment groups. Now, the purpose of these payment groups is that they allow you to group together certain payment types for the purposes of exporting to Xero. So for example, the reason why you would do that is that a lot of credit card companies, for example, will process things like Visa, MasterCard and EFTPOS transactions all together in one bank deposit. And so it's useful, therefore, if the amount that is exported from iconpractice will be the same amount that is reconciled within your bank account. Whereas if we were to export an EFTPOS amount and a Visa amount and a MasterCard amount from the software, then it would mean you would have three separate payment amounts and you'd somehow have to add those together to try and reconcile them against the amount that shows up on your bank statement. So what we do is we have it so that you can set up groupings, and therefore the system, iconpractice, will group those payments together to allow you to export them. And so what we've got here is we can see this is under the system setting, and then what you do is you go to export payment groups here, and you can see that I haven't got any payment group set up at all. So what I'm going to do is create my first payment group, and I'm going to call it card receipts. You can call it whatever you like. Now in the system you can export these payment information or this payment information as a CSV file, and what you may want to do is you may want to put a certain account name in here to associate it with it in a CSV export. Now if you have connected to Xero, and this is a dummy account that I've got that isn't connected to Xero, what you will see is you will see, like here, you can see that there's a Xero account that is showing up here. So as I said, it's a good idea to be connected to Xero before you start doing this process, because then your Xero accounts will be pulled in here to allow you to use that. Now we haven't got that here, so let's just go ahead and we'll just call it, a test account. You can see that I can't spell test properly, but let's just change that across, and I'm going to create group. Now what we can see here is that I've now got a card receipts group here, and what I'm then going to do is I'm going to go down to the one here that says link payment types to groups, and I'm going to choose that, and now I'm going to select EFTPOS, and I'm going to click link payment type, and you can see that it's put it up here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select Visa, and wait for the system to just do its thing and select that across there. Now I'm going to select MasterCard and so on, and allocate MasterCard to that. And so now what will happen is that the system will create a card receipts payment that includes all of the Visa, MasterCard and EFTPOS transaction types. Okay, and I would go ahead and I would do the same thing for cash receipts. I might do the same thing for EFT receipts, etc. And you can see here we've got a whole stack of different payment types. In fact, all of the payment types within the system have been allocated to different payment groups under my system here. So hopefully that makes sense, and let's switch back across to the remainder of the video. All of the tax-free revenue exports here will be put into this particular account. Then I can also, if I want to, if I have a separate account for taxed revenue, and typically for me, any taxed revenue is associated with selling stock items. And so what I do is I put it into a stock account separately in Xero. You don't have to do that. It's up to you. You could put it into the same account as your normal, as the remainder of your tax-free transactions, etc. It's up to you. It just depends on where you want to put it in your Xero accounts. You may want to consult with your accountant and get their advice on where it needs to go. Then last but not least, you can export your invoices into Xero as draft. Typically, it's just easier to export them as approved invoices, because then what will happen is it'll all be done and you won't need to go into Xero and manually approve each of the invoices, which basically can become rather tedious. And then once if you've changed your settings here, you'll click Save Settings. And then the final thing that you have to do, and once you've completed all this setup, it's very straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to select the date range in which you want to export. Now, some people do this daily. Personally, I'm a bit lazy. I do it every 3 months. So what I do is I go in and I select a date range that is 3 months. Now, let's just move it up to the end of, say, June here. Obviously, there won't be transactions for the remainder of June because I'm doing this on the 10th of June as we speak here. But nonetheless, you get the idea. And you would click Export to Xero. And what will happen is that every day that you have transactions, the system will export an invoice for that particular day. And on that invoice, it will have a tax-free total, and it will have a taxed total, and it will include the relevant amount of tax in that. And then it will go ahead and it will allocate payments to that invoice for the day, depending upon the payment groups that you've got. So for example, if I had $200 in cash payments for that day, and I had another $200 in card receipts for that day, and the total invoice amount was $400, what will happen is there'll be $200 in card receipts, $200 in cash receipts, and it will be allocated to the invoice. And as a result, you can then go into Xero and you can then reconcile those to the particular accounts and so forth. So hopefully that makes sense. If you've got any questions, as always, contact us at support. More than happy to work you through this. I know it can seem a little bit complex initially, but once it's all set up, it's a very quick process. You just need to effectively select your date range and click Export to Xero, and the system will go ahead and export it for the given date range. So, as I said, as always, any questions, get in touch. But otherwise, be sure to subscribe to the channel so that as we post new videos on how to do things in the system, you can come back and watch those nice and easily.